Mayor, at this time we will reopen that public hearing. And at this time, if the applicant wishes to present any information, this will be your opportunity.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. I'm Bob Hornick with the Bro Law Firm, and I'm here on behalf of Overrun 2 or Dairy Queen or Mr. Nuzzy. So you all, if you weren't already aware, I'm sure you were, that's who the players are, so to speak. And thanks for continuing the hearing from the 4th so we could all be here together to talk to you a little bit. I know that you have the planning staff report and the planning board report. I also know that in your agenda packets you had the photographs and the renderings of the I've also got Mr. Nuzzy's here this evening with Pat Kelly, who built the building and refurbished the building most recently. So there may be some questions that you have that, if I can't address them, that Mr. Kelly can address with respect to what's out there and why it's out there, and with respect to the temporary lights that have been put up there to kind of illustrate what it is that we're hoping to accomplish with the proposed text amendment. The planning board's recommendation, I know you all have that, was for kind of a modification of what we had proposed. Our proposal was to amend the ordinance so that the lighting could face the wall rather than have goosenecks down off the roof. And we proposed that the maximum foot candles would be 10-foot candles. What's out there right now with the temporary lighting on the south side of the building, I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at that. That averages about 9.5-foot candles. We were out there, I wasn't out there, but Mr. Nuzzy had people out there that measured, I think it was something like at 17 different spots along the side of the wall, averaged it out, and it's about 9.5-foot candles on the parapet wall, the upper wall above the porch roof. And that's the effect that we're trying to have on that building. We'd also have them on the north side, similarly to what's temporarily been located on the south side. And the purpose for the proposed modification, as you all know, the store was rehabbed, renovated just within the past several months. All the neon that had been there for many, many years has now been removed. And I think, Madam Clerk, do we still have photographs of those items? And I think, let's see, let's try the, now let's go back to up photo DQ on the, thank you very much. That is, that's the facade we're looking at without the temporary lighting on it. And if we can move on to the next photo. That is the eastern facade. Now that lighting effect there, those are the existing lights. They were not changed at all during the renovation of the store. Now that's the store, of course, as it's been renovated. But the lighting on the east side remains as is. And that is the lighting, the temporary lighting that's on the store right now. We drove by there this evening. You can see the lighter color on the orange is probably the most reflective. The blue facade the darker color is less reflective. I think Mr. Allen had said last time that the darker, the way I understood it at least, was the darker colors would reflect more, and it's actually the opposite. The darker colors reflect less than a lighter color. So what's up there right now, that's what has been measured as averaging about 9.5-foot candles along that facade. And the proposed lighting up there is what Mr. Nuzzy, what Dairy Queen would propose to have on, I guess, on the south, the west, and the north sides the building. Again, our view is that it's a significant improvement over what the store used to look like. The real purpose for the request is really to make the store more visible at night. About 80% of the store's business occurs in the evening and nighttime hours. With it being down a little bit lower from the road and a little bit dark, it's just not as visible. Their sales at the store have gone down at this location where they've been steady or gone up at their other locations. And the theory is that the visibility has something to do with it. So we're hoping that with the renovation and with the greater visibility, if we're allowed to do these lights, that it would rejuvenate business at the store. One last point I'd like to make is that one of the reasons, or the primary reason why we can't, or it would be very, very difficult for us to downlight the parapet wall, is that with the renovations that were done at the building, there was a certain kind of a phenolic foam insulation put on the roof, and then to go up there and to penetrate that insulation on that roof and to service it would put us potentially in violation of warranties for the roofing material. You'd kind of be crushing the foam insulation that's up there, and it would become a very costly and if we ever had any leaks or anything like that, very difficult situation for us to address with the downlighting. So the upward lighting from the canopy roof was what we proposed to try to address that situation, so that we could have the lighting and still not violate the warranties on the roofing materials. That's the long and the short of our request. If the board has any questions of myself, or if I can answer them of Mr. Kelly, we'd be happy to try to address them for the board.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Hornick? Or any questions for Mr. Nuzzi directly or Mr. Kelly? Anything further, Mr. Hornick?
We would ask that the board would adopt the text amendment as we proposed with the 10-foot candles. Now, there's some other language that the staff, I think, they'd massaged the ordinance a little bit in what would be proposed, the new subparagraph 4. I mean, with the exception of, we prefer to have 10 average maintained foot candles to 5. The other language that the staff inserted, or parapet wall, we have no objection to that. But you know, we think that what's out there, which is about 9.5 foot candles right now, is good for us, and we think that it looks good. So we would ask the board to adopt the ordinance with the 10-foot candles rather than the 5-foot candles suggested by the staff and by the planning board. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's probably more of a technical question. If the wall color was plain white, can you quantify how much more reflection that would create? I understand because of the dark colors it absorbs the light versus the other way, but everybody may not paint their walls right blue and orange.
I'm not sure that I can. I don't know if Pat, do you have a sense of a better sense technically of how that might work?
Do you have the photos showing the black and the white photos?
I think that would be the one. Or did you?
Yeah, this photo here is the one that shows 5-foot candles. The reflective qualities of white versus blue and orange, it's going to appear much brighter than the colors will. Can we go to the one that has 10?
What did that last one show?
That was 5-foot candles.
And you couldn't even see the building.
Right.
That's the parapet wall.
This is 5-foot candles as well.
But you know, the average eye looking at that photo, you couldn't tell what it is.
Is this actually?
That's the parapet wall. This is done on a computer program. It was prepared by LSI Industries. Their program doesn't have the capacity to do the colors. It's simply black and white. Now, the white surface is going to reflect more light than blue or orange or any color will. And the light intensity that you see here is 5-foot candles. Okay. We've got another one that shows the white with 10.
Got a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
This is just a computer generated.
This is a
Not
photo.
real.
This is a photo with the white overlaid on top of the colors, because their program can only render black and white. They can't do the colors. But with that being said, the colors would not appear brighter than the white. The white's going to look much brighter.
Don't have that, right? That's not on here.
Are we trying to get the 10-foot candles? This one right here is with the reduced wattage to bring it down to the 5 that the board was looking for originally from the last meeting.
We have a disc that has 10-foot candles also.
With the white background.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What's involved when you said with going from to the 5-foot candles? What's involved with changing from 5 to 10? What's involved from the technical?
It's
How
more
difficult-
it's more wattage.
But how difficult is it to retrofit from 5 to 10?
Well, with the type of lights that we're proposing here, they're metal halide, which would involve new bulbs, new ballasts, and so it's not as simple as just changing a bulb.
Right.
Okay, this here is the 10-foot candles. We don't have. Do you have the ability to put the two side by side?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you can see that it's substantially brighter, and again, the white color is going to appear much brighter than the orange and the blue will, particularly the blue, which on this side here, I think there's more blue than there is orange on the building.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Matter of clarification. This shows the rendition with 2 lights.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it
This is the west side, which is a shorter side of the building, so it only has 2 lights, and that's what we're proposing. The south and the north side have 3.
So you don't have a rendition that shows what it would look like white with 3 lights then?
Yeah, there should be. It should be on the disc. It would be the south or the north. Well, the south side. Front, left or right, either one. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Is 10-foot candles twice as much as 5-foot candles?
Yes.
No measure. Okay.
Yes. And again, if you guys all went by there and looked at what we have now, that's about 10. It's actually just a little less than 10. So you can figure it being half as bright, which, would be, not much light. Particularly on the colors.
Yeah, yes.
So are you asking to have this on all 4 walls?
No, just the north, the south, and the west side. The side that faces
the sound?
Yes. The side that faces
Don't you mean the east side?
the east side
Faces
has
the road?
the east side has the existing lights that were there prior to the remodel.
Okay.
And the parapet's not visible from the front, is it? From the
No, just the 3 other sides.
yes.
What is the purpose of having the increased lighting on the west side, since you've already made your entry in and you know where you're going?
Well, I think that, to make the building look uniform, you're right. From a customer standpoint, they already know they're at a Dairy Queen when they get into the west side and they're going to go into the building. But, when you look at the building as a whole, I think it would look a little odd having the north and the south lit up, and then you get around to the back and it's all, dark. So it was more to make it look more uniform and, to make it look better.
Ms. Walters?
Since the east side is lit from the ground up, is that not a possibility or the other sides? Or is,
You mean to light it from the ground? No, it's this roof that you see. You can kind of see it in the photos. Those 3 lights there, they're mounted towards the leading edge of the roof, which is about 10 or 12 feet back away from the parapet. So to try to light these sides from the ground, the lights would have to be so far back that, you know, and then it would illuminate the whole building, which would make it even brighter. So, I mean, we tried a bunch of different positions for the lights out there, and we found that this was the best angle to light that wall. Even the rooftop mount lights, if you were to put those on there, if we didn't have the issue with the potential roof leaks and the roof damage caused by the roof mounted lights, the problem with those is it would then light the roof up, you know, the standing seam roof, which you know, is not something that Dairy Queen's looking to do. And you know, their main thing is to just get visibility to the building itself, not light the roof and make it look even brighter.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Horner? Anything
If I may, just one thing to address Ms. Walters' question. One of the we had drafted our proposed text amendment to say that the light could be no greater than 15 feet, no further than 15 feet from the parapet wall that it's illuminating, and no taller than 15 inches off of the surface that it would be attached to, precisely to try to make sure that you didn't have lights so far away from the parapet wall that it would shed light other than on the parapet wall. So we were trying to address the situation of not spraying light further than we want it to be placed, so that we could direct it closely at the wall and illuminate the wall only. That's why we drafted it that way. So thanks.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hornick? Okay. Does staff have any further information they wish to present to the board at this time? Ms. Teague?
If I may, and then I'll let Kim Ellen jump in if he's probably better with the more technical questions. But just an observation to clarify for you from the planning board, because these photos were also shown, and I had trouble distinguishing what this was as well. And it's hard to really tell, but these are the 3 lights that would be on the roof of that deck that goes 3 sides around. And in this visual image, the lights that would be underneath the deck and lighting up the deck area, which would normally be on, obviously aren't shown. So it was hard for me to make a judgment about the brightness of those because they're sort of out of context. They're dark all around. That said, I think, and I know it's hard to go between the 2 images, where the planning board was going was they understood Mr. Nuzzi's concern about the visibility of his building from the road, but they also were concerned about sort of watering down our night sky ordinance. So I think they saw that as a compromise, and Marvin is, we have a couple of, well, one planning board member here who may be able to tell you a little bit more about that, but I did want to just make that comment about that image, because that one was the 5-foot candle. It's almost hard to tell the difference between the 5 and the 10-foot candle, but that's maybe not the most useful image because it's so dark all the way around, and it's not going to really show you what it would be like when the building is normally lit and there'd be lights all around the building where the deck is. So just a comment from that.
Are you saying that the pictures that we have here with the lights on the deck, or you haven't seen these pictures, or?
We have, in fact, that might be useful now to go back to those Dairy Queen pictures. There's another one that shows that southern wall.
That's what I'm looking at. That one.
Right. And you see how underneath the roof that deck area is lit up. This is kind of a hard angle too, because you're sort of standing towards the street looking back, and that wall is the wall that faces to the extreme east is casting a bit of a shadow. But if you were to stand out on Windmill Point, property and look at it, you could see that that side of the building, at least underneath, is fairly well lit up when the lights are on under the deck.
And how many foot candles would be allowed under the in that area that you're talking about, under the deck or under the porch?
I'm going to let Kim answer that, but
That's okay.
The light falling on the surface of the deck is a maximum of 12. Currently, there are 14. Over time, lights will die down within a couple of years to be the target foot candle. And if you want to know exactly what the parapet wall is going to look like at 10 foot candles, that photograph, when I did that light audit, well, when I went out there a few months ago, I measured the light levels on the walls underneath the porch, and those are 10-foot candles. So that's a bit overexposed. If you go back to the north wall, that's 10-foot candles falling on the wall underneath the roof. So the parapet wall above the roof is going to be the exact same level of foot candles. That wall being a white wall, mostly white wall, I think.
Questions? Yes, sir.
Question on history. How did we end up with 1 foot candle on these surface areas? Can you give us some
For walls?
background? Yes, sir.
It may have been that's where the municipal center was, and I didn't want to make it non-conforming.
Too much honesty, Kevin.
I tried to minimize the number of non-conformities. I looked around at the buildings. All of them were brighter than 1 foot candle, except maybe the municipal center. But there's several resources that I used in writing the lighting ordinance, and one is the outdoor lighting manual for Vermont municipalities. And I paraphrased it last time I was here, but I brought in the text this time. And when they talk about illuminating building facades, that being the front of the building, if well done, can do a great deal to the overall visual qualities of an area. Facades of public or symbolic religious buildings, if subtly illuminated, can become major features of traditional villages and town centers. On the other hand, lighting unexceptional buildings can have a detrimental effect, as can facade lighting that is poorly designed and implemented. Lighting levels on facades may be so high that the entire facade becomes a major source of reflected light, much brighter than the surrounding area. Light fixtures may be located and aimed so that they cause glare to nearby properties and roadways. So their advice was not to uplight, well, just to get away from uplighting entirely unless it was a governmental center, a church, or some kind of historic building. In our ordinance, we allow up to 1 foot candle average. So we go a little above what they recommended.
Thank you.
Any other, yes, Commissioner Walters?
do we have the Dairy Queen signs that are on the top of the building? I didn't ride around to the west side of the building at night. Is there a Dairy Queen sign on the west side?
Yes.
So there are signs on all 4 sides
Yes.
of the building. And do we allow signage on other buildings within the town, lit signs on all 4 sides?
I believe Mr. Nuzzi amended that ordinance to allow that sign on the back of his building last fall.
And do we allow uplighting on 4 sides of other buildings within the town?
From ground-mounted lights, the facade would be 5-foot candles. Any other wall would be 1-foot candle. So yes, all 4 sides.
Okay, and how about, well, I guess we don't allow the parapet. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Allen? All right, thank you. Any other information from staff at this time? Mr. Demers, do you wish to present anything on behalf of the planning board?
Just quickly to refresh from last meeting, there were 2 primary points involved here that the planning board was concerned with. One was a request to be able to install those lights on top of those deck roofs because that's previously not allowed. And second was if that was allowed, what's the intensity of the lighting from those lights. We felt that the renovations and removing the neon lighting did detract from the visibility of the building. The renovations made the building much more attractive. That we felt that the owner did have a valid point in wanting to reestablish some level of lighting for visibility to the clientele. And we felt that since the porch roof was there and that precluded uplighting from the ground, as would have been allowed under the rest of the ordinances, that they should be allowed to add those lights on top of the porch roofs. As far as the level of intensity, again, there are, I believe, 9 other similar structures in town that would fall under this. The current standard is 1-foot candle. The request was for 10. It was felt that that was quite a large increase and probably not really essential in order to establish a significant increase in visibility. And we felt that 5-foot candles was an increase to the existing level, but as high as the planning board thought they should go.
Any questions for Mr. Demers?
You said there were 9 other buildings, or there 9 or 16?
My recollection was, no, was it 16? 16. Thank you, Cliff.
All right. Thank you. All right, does any other member of the public wish to comment on this proposed text amendment this time? Anybody at all? Does the board wish to receive any further information on this matter before it begins its deliberations? Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
I have a question for either Kim or Mr. Hornick or the other gentleman that was representing. Yes. This picture has shown the light that is lighting up on the north side, the DQ and the Dairy Queen. Is that coming from the ground level or is that coming from a roof level?
That sign is backlit.
Okay. No, okay, everything's backlit.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Anything else before we close the public hearing? All right, at this time, we will conclude the public hearing on this proposed text amendment, and the board may begin its deliberations on it.
Well, it's tough for me to tell the difference between 5-foot candles and 10-foot candles, to be honest with you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I'd just like to say I've been down there, I've looked, you know, our ordinance, and we certainly don't want to inhibit the night sky. I don't think it does that. I think that, you know, again, what are we looking for? Are we looking for standing back on the county's on another piece of property and looking over top of his building and not being able to see the sky? Are we talking about standing outside along the building and looking up? I mean, I don't see an issue here, but again, it's an increase from 1-foot candle to 10, and that seems to upset, you know, people as far as a big increase. I certainly respect the gentleman that wrote the lighting ordinance and understand that the pressure that we have all been under to not inhibit the ability of people to walk down the street and look at the night sky. God knows I have pushed the issue about public safety, about street lights, and nobody was going to accept that. You know, we have people run over every year on the beach road and because of no lighting. Well, goes with the territory, I guess, and we're not going to do anything about that. Here is an opportunity to help a gentleman with his business. He has put a lot of money into his renovation. I think the building looks 1,000 times better than it did before. I don't think that the lighting issue I don't think it is an issue. Now, again, if the other 16 business owners come to us and want to change their lighting from 1-foot candle to 10, and it becomes an issue, I mean, I don't know what to say. This particular situation, the way this building is situated, the way it's off the road, driving up and down the road, it's not glaring. It does. He's exactly right. This does help him, it helps people find his business, and that's what it was meant to do. Again, I'm for helping business no matter what, or not no matter what, but help business if it does not inhibit the night sky. I don't think this does. Just leave it at that. So I'm supportive of it, but I'm also, if you want to try to whittle it down and all that, I can't see the difference either. I can't see the difference between 1 foot candle, 5 foot candle with 10. It just gets brighter. It's like a dimmer switch. Being in public safety all my life, I know that that the lighting arrangements here are not inhibiting anything. Safety around the building is for people going in and out is better now. I think the visibility of the building is good. It looks better. I don't have an issue.
I like the idea of changing putting lights on the parapet, on the canopy, because I think that is going to increase visibility, and I think that's a very positive aspect. I'm not sure whether it's 5 or 10 is the right thing to do. I'm not, having observed it tonight, and I did ride by and take a long look at it, Nick. Matter of fact, I could see it when I was coming out of Grey Eagle, so you've got some visibility. But I'm not sure if it's 5 or 10 is the right answer, but I do endorse allowing the change to have the lights that are mounted on the canopy. I think that's real strong. I would be curious about if we went to 10, how it would affect 16 other businesses and what it would look like, especially since a lot of our districts are mixed use and have residential uses right next to commercial uses. This one does not, which is a plus in its favor, but I would be curious as to how it would impact a residential neighborhood with a business right next door to it, kind of thing, especially in a CR district. That would be my only question, is how it would impact in other districts.
Well, the ordinance has been changed to allow signage on 4 walls, and I do have concerns about the night sky. I am concerned about how, in this instance, I rode by 2, and it isn't glaring, except there's not a lot going on at that end of town at this point in time, in January. So it's kind of hard to discern what it is truly going to look like. But also, there's no approach from the west side. So I'm not seeing where that is a great benefit to drawing business, as there's just no approach. And because this would apply to all businesses of this nature, I would tend to agree with the planning board that the 5-foot candles is a good compromise.
Mr. Sutton?
I will say it is a definite improvement over to what was there, Nick. You'll be congratulated. Thank you for the improvement. Doug said something earlier that he started off the conversation with wondering what the other businesses might want to do. Well, if you pass this, they're all allowed to do it. Am I correct, Cliff?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's done. 16 businesses could immediately go to 10-foot candle power. That's probably my biggest concern, is when you make a change for one, there is no such thing as spot changing. You make it for all, and I just have tried to envision what a lot of these pictures that we have here, including Town Hall, would look like if we all went to 10. The other real question I have too is, why would the west side have to be? I mean, like I said before, you're already in there. Your signs are all around the building. You're in there. I would think that a more diminished light, particularly, I think there's a business to the west, directly to the west, the golf the miniature golf is there, so there's some lights out there too. I don't see the need for increased candle power at all on that west side. I disagree with staff. I think that some increase needs to be to make the building more visible. But I'm having real heartburn with 10 candle power. I think I would lean more to the recommendation of the planning board that 5 should be sufficient. But even at that, I just think a softer lighting on that west side is sufficient. You're already there. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
I agree with y'all's comments on the west side, and I don't think that's Mr. Nutty's main focus on this. He wants to get people into the building,
Right.
not necessarily from across the sound.
No.
I think going from 1 to 10 is a big leap, but when I look at the difference between 5 and 10, I'm not sure I see as big a leap there, especially when you've got 12 allowed underneath it on the porch area. I have those same concerns about what happens with everybody else that can do this. I think we'll find that because of the nighttime nature of this business, it's much more important to something like a Dairy Queen, and maybe the others are all restaurants too, I don't know. But this particular business, I'm sure he does 80% of his business after dark. That with I think the one's just not, you can't see anything with 1. And 5 is still pretty dim to me. So I would support the 10 proposal. Would anybody care to make a motion?
I would like to say one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Mayor. If you go to our pictures, what's presented to us, including the town hall, New York Pizza. New York Pizza goes from 14-foot candles to 1.7, all up and down the front of the building. And the Whalebone picture, Whalebone Surf Shop, is, as far as a constant light increase, goes from 6 or 3 to 8. I really, the foot candle increase from 8 to 10, particularly like the Whalebone, the front of Whalebone Surf Shop, or the side of Whalebone. What is that?
It's a side and it's on the side street.
Again, I really think that 10-foot candles is not a big increase. I don't think it's going to create a devastating issue. I don't think it's unless there's glare coming off where you can't see the night sky. Again, I don't want to inhibit anybody's right to see the night sky either, but I don't think that these are issues. And that's all I've got. I'm just using that to 8. I mean 8, and then New York Pizza goes from 1.7 to 14. I just don't believe. I'm certainly not an expert like this gentleman is about, wattage and foot candles and so on and so forth. But I really believe our whole town's pretty dark anyway. And if you want to keep it that way, then that's fine. But
I do want to thank Nick for setting up those lights. It was very helpful to be able to see it on the building. It gave me a lot better perspective on what it would look like. It's hard to tell from the pictures. What's the board's pleasure?
Well, I'll start out. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the ordinance changing the allowed power from, erase the 10 and put 5. That's in number 4.
And that was the planning board recommendation, is that correct?
That was the planning board recommendation, yes.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second, further discussion?
May I ask a point of clarification?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that include adopting the change of item 3 about where they can be located with the 15 feet, no greater than 15 feet from a parapet wall?
And no greater than 15 inches.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I should have said as in our packet with the change from the 10 to the 5. Thank you, Renee.
And I think the applicant actually put those restrictions, added them, I mean, that was part of
Added
his
the-
original proposal as well. Further discussion?
Mayor, comment. I'm probably going to support this, but I would like to get a little more evaluation from staff as it goes on, as well as input from Mr. Nuzzi to see how this works and reflects, and then as well as see if we were to change it to 10, what the impacts would be on other people in other areas. This is a snapshot of a change, and one of the reasons I'm supporting this is because I'd like to see what the broader stroke impact would be.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons. That's my comment.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign?
No.
Nay. Motion passes 3-2.
Will require it.
Second reading. And everybody understands that if it doesn't get is it 4/5, John?
The first time.
The first time, it does have to be read again, and we'll pass on a simple majority on the next time.
Mayor, would that be next week at our meeting?
Yes, ma'am, I think that would
Okay, just
actually.
making sure.
These are coming a little too close together, you know?
Just making sure.
The next item on our agenda, thank y'all very much for coming again, and we hope that that works well for you. Next item on our agenda is appointments to town boards and committees from our January 4th meeting. And, yes, ma'am?
Mayor, I would like to nominate Richard Murphy to fill the unexpired seat of our now sitting commissioner, Susan Walters.
Yes, ma'am. We have a nomination on the floor for Mr. Murphy. John, I'm sorry, you told me this last time, but do not nominations require a second, not require a second?
I believe they require a second under your rules of procedure. We'll just check.
Do I hear a second to Mr. Murphy?
I second Mr. Murphy.
Yes, ma'am. Are there further nominations? Other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Barbara Granat.
Yes, ma'am. And I will second that nomination. Are there further nominations? Very well. Discussion? Do you want to have any discussion on this? Ma'am,
May I comment?
please.
Barbara has been on, served as the alternate since '09, and she has been at the majority of the meetings. She is always prepared to step in and fill in when needed. She is up to speed on everything that's been occurring on the planning board, so there really is no learning curve for her. And that's why she's been very loyal in her attendance, and that's why I support her.
Other comments from Mr. Murphy? Equal time? Okay, all those in favor of Mr. Murphy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did I hear 3 ayes? I heard 3 ayes. I believe that finishes the vote. And Mr. Murphy will be appointed to the planning board. Congratulations, sir. Glad to have you on. We also have a Mr. Haddon's seat had expired late in the fall. And I believe he had requested to be reappointed. I think that's in our package. All right, Mr. Haddon was also, did y'all elect him as vice chair this last? No? Okay.
We haven't elected vice chair.
Open the floor for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Tony Parker.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second her motion.
We have a second to that. Further nominations?
I'd like to nominate to reappoint Tom Haddon. Is that how you phrase it?
Yes, ma'am, it is, I guess. And I'll second that. Further nominations? All those in favor of Ms. Parker, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that's 3 votes for Ms. Parker, and she is appointed to the planning board. Anything else under boards and committees? Yes, ma'am?
Mayor, if I'm looking, Ms. Pronounce it for me, Susie. Granat is up for reappointment. If you look at 2-4, well, actually it'd be next week, I guess. Sorry. It's up for. I'm already thinking we're in February.
We're getting
We've
close.
had so many
Well, you're
meetings
just
this month.
moving right along tonight.
We've had so many meetings.
So you're saying that Ms. Granat's alternate term is up?
Next month.
Yep, next month. Gosh.
The end of next week, yes, actually.
Okay. Well, we'll deal with that one next time.
Okay.
Item number F, adoption of the town parks and recreation plan. Ms. T, do you want to? I know we've talked about this an awful lot. You don't have to go through the whole plan again.
Good evening again. As you'll see, and we actually still have some of our volunteer Parks and Recreation Committee members in the audience tonight. This is a plan that has gone through several iterations. It's been prepared by this volunteer committee. It was presented to the board in October. We brought it to you at the last meeting this month. We tabled it for a workshop on the 18th of this month. The committee and the Board of Commissioners were able to sit down at a round table, and I really want to congratulate both groups for working together and going through the document. We have made changes to the document based on that workshop, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at that new version of the document and it meets your approval. We'd like to try and get this adopted tonight because we are preparing a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant, and we do get additional points in the application for having an adopted rec plan. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or I'd invite anyone from the committee up here if you want to hear from them.
Questions?
I am prepared to make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I know all of you want to speak again on that, from that committee, but thank you, Mayor and committee, for coming together with the board and having that workshop. It really was, it was a good workshop. And I would make a motion to approve the Recreation Committee as it stands tonight in the computer with your changes, Elizabeth.
Thank you. And there is a resolution also in your packet. Again, this was presented at that last meeting. And if you would consider a motion to adopt that resolution, which would, in essence, adopt the plan.
Do you want me
Was-
to, would you want me to?
Is that what your
to
motion
include?
said?
Yes,
Yes.
that includes my motion. The resolution that is in the packet is also in the motion. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much for your work. We did have a great workshop and great public participation.
Mayor, while Ralph, the chairman of the Recreation Committee, is here, if I might just have the board congratulate him. He is our new chair of the Tourism Board. I'm sure in that seat we will not be coming forward for any request while he's in that chair. But we want to wish him well.
And the new vice chair.
Yes, yeah, and don't come to me either.
We expect all of our grants to be approved.
Well, I can assure you they won't be. Right, Ralph?
Congratulations to both of y'all. Thank you very much. I wish y'all a very successful year. Next item is item G. It's an update on the beach chair, umbrella, and signage town code text amendments. Ms. T.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. At your direction, the planning board has formed 2 committees to work on 2 specific issues. The first I'll talk about is the beach chair and beach umbrella rental. As you'll recall, you were very concerned about the vendors, and we had brought to you our staff concerns about enforcement regarding vendors for rental equipment out on the beach and trying to protect that land use plan directive about no commercialization of the beach. That committee met with several stakeholders and business people in a roundtable discussion. We had a lot of good input. You'll see the minutes from that discussion and the agenda in your packet materials. The draft ordinance that you have that you'll see coming before you February 1st actually tightens up the existing rules for both the village area and for existing vendors who are working with hotels. And we'll be bringing that forward to you again in February for your consideration for adoption. And the second committee had to do with signage and digital signage specifically. We took a similar approach in that planning board members met with, actually it was a lot of business owners from the Outer Banks Mall, local sign company. We had a representative from the Outer Banks Hospital there as well. And we're in the process now of putting together the minutes and the recommendations that came out of that meeting. We just held that a couple of days ago, and we'll be taking that to the planning board at their next meeting next month in February. So those processes are going forward, and I think all in all it's been very positive. I've greatly appreciated our planning board members' willingness to put in some extra time and meet with the public. I will say Mr. Demers has been at every meeting because he got called in when someone couldn't make it, and I think it's all in all been a good process. And the text that will come forward to you hopefully will be something that both the business community and the planning board feel comfortable with.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yeah.
Questions? Questions for Elizabeth? Thank you. Next item is Public Works Projects. Mr. Valdivieso.
Mayor, if I could, I just want to take an opportunity to, you all know that Eddie's been with us for a little while now, and we're very fortunate and very pleased to have him as part of our staff. Three things really. He's going to be presenting the Vista Colony project that's been on the table for quite a while, and I'm very pleased to have it before you tonight. Hopefully get, based on the recommendation he's going to present, to get that approved. So I just want to welcome Eddie. I told him when I first started, then Manager Cameron gave me a sign to get y'all to approve. We've given him a much greater thing than his first presentation, so we're very glad he's here with us.
It's good to see you on the light side.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that alone. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm very humbled by it, actually. Tonight, Mr. Mayor, I've got two projects, and with the third twist, if you will. I know drainage has been a big concern of the town of Nags Head, as is multiple townships on the Outer Banks. And I've had some experience with very similar geographies and very similar drainage situations that we're presented with, that you all are going to be presented with tonight. The first item is a multi-use path, which isn't necessarily drainage, but it has a small component in there that I want to come back to. But this is the first item, and is for a continuation of your multi-use path starting at Barn Street, which is on the west side of 158, and heading south roughly 1,000 feet to the intersection of the new YMCA, not the new YMCA, but the YMCA driveway and Bonnet Street. The bids were taken a week or two ago, and the results are in front of you, and staff is recommending award to RPC as the low bidder in there. I'm here to answer any questions you may have on that. And then I'm going to come back to that on one of the drainage components that are part of this project that's going to roll into Vista and perhaps address some concerns out of Nags Head Acres.
Questions for Mr. Valdivieso? I'm sorry, I'm murdering your last
Eddie V.
That works. I do have a question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to channel former Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Gray for a minute here and say that I really think that our stormwater funds should be used for correcting already existing problems and not for new stuff, new construction.
If you'd like to hear the other part of this presentation
Sure,
before you get that approved, and
comment?
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I'll tell you about the small piece of this, which is for an existing drainage problem coming from the north. And part of that is lowering an existing culvert at the YMCA driveway. It's too high and they want to install a bigger pipe. And that component is stormwater related upstream. It's to facilitate drainage from upstream through this area.
So what you're telling me is that it actually is correcting a
Yes.
previous problem.
And not having the benefit of Mr. Gray's experience, I can't say.
And Eddie, up to and including Nags Head Acres, correct?
Yes, sir. It's one of the pieces of the puzzle I'm going to talk about here.
Ready for a motion?
Well, we can motion and then, okay. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we award the bid to the low bidder, which is RPC.
So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Further discussion?
Well, is everybody adding all of the work in here? Eddie, there is such a tremendous difference between, I'm sure the public can see it, but it's about $40,000 difference between the high and the low bid is, everything is in here, in all of them, that need to be done. We're not going to be hit back on the backside with something unforeseen. And be careful, because we'll hold you to it. You asked Dave Clark if we don't hold you to it.
Second question I'm not really going to answer. In all seriousness, yes, they're very reputable contractors. RPC has done the previous phases. Perhaps they may sub Hatchell because Hatchell's primary work is concrete. But if you notice under the specific action requested, we've also asked in addition, and I'm new, so I want to make sure that we're clear on that, that while we're recommending awarding the contract to RPC for that set dollar amount, which is $130,628, we're also asking for, to be budgeted, $3,000 for construction stakeout work and a 10% contingency to hopefully, it's construction, so we might anticipate something happening, and that's where this 10% contingency will cover, I hope.
Okay. Well, my motion does include the 10% contingency.
And just for clarification,
okay.
is your motion also, was it to accept the base bid with the alternate traffic loop repair at the YMCA?
That's the 750, yeah, it does.
Okay, I thought so, but I just
And
want to
all the
clarify.
way across. What did I say, 126 or 130?
No, you didn't use a figure.
I didn't
but
use a figure,
but
yeah,
I-
okay.
But I figured that's
No,
what you-
it does include that, which should be, the figure should be 130,628 if you want to make sure that gets in the motion.
And includes the construction stakeout and the 10% contingency.
Correct.
And so we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The next project is the Vista Colony Drainage Project. And again, this has got a piece of the multi-use path because we're upstream of that now. This project involves Meekins Drive, which runs north and south, and Lost Colony and Albemarle Streets, which run east and west off of that. And there's an aerial on there. It's kind of hard to see, but let's see here. This is the Ace Hardware, is where my pointer is right now. And this Vista Colony project will encompass, this is Meekins Drive, roughly from this point here, that's Lost Colony, south, there's Albemarle. And that pretty much defines the work scope that's in this Vista Colony bid package. What's not shown here is drainage-wise, what's happening is that the contract is for coming in sides of these roads, regrading the shoulders, cutting and replacing these driveway aprons and creating a swale with them within that driveway apron going up and down both sides of this road. And in real general terms, the break point for drainage, roughly this line that I'm zigzagging back and forth there, from this point west, all the water in the streets is draining to the west, and they're creating a infiltration basin back on the Colony Ridge site to capture and infiltrate stormwater back in there. From this break point, again, water is also being sent this way, back out to Meekins, and there's a drainage collection basin right here currently that picks up water from Nags Head Acres and then drains out to 158. The project was bid with all that in mind. If there's any questions on the base bid or the concept of what's going on there, I can answer that now. And I have one twist that may go with this. That if you're done with those questions, I'll go on with that.
I have a question. Were both contractors there at bid opening?
I'm sorry?
Were both contractors there at bid opening?
Yes.
I mean, for 200, for 240 bucks, and we're having, well, go ahead, you might have something else.
You can look at it two ways. I look at it as a very good set of plans. They have very tight bids.
Good engineer. I'm almost certain that you would, yeah.
And I'd be remiss in saying Bissell prepared the drainage plans for both of these projects that you've seen, the multi-use plan and this Vista Colony.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
question. Eddie, you talked about briefly the drainage basin, catch basin near Nags Head Acres.
Yes.
Is this project going to enhance the drainage as well of Nags Head Acres?
It's going to enhance the drainage within Vista Colony. Now, a third piece of the puzzle for overall drainage in this area is this section of Nags Head Acres. It currently has a drainage box somewhere in a culvert under the road right in there, and drains with a 12-inch pipe roughly down that property line to this point, then out to 158. Bissell has done a drainage evaluation of this area as well. It predates me, but that was one of the pieces of the puzzle, if you will, that we wanted to receive and consider what their recommendations were for alleviating drainage in Nags Head Acres while we have these other construction projects on the board and possibly active. You know, there may be some advantages to picking up or slightly altering some drainage features, for example, in Vista Colony, that could pick up eventually in runoff from Nags Head Acres. This is a problem for Nags Head Acres. It's low. I tend to oversimplify things because that helps me understand it better. If you can imagine filling up a swimming pool, and obviously when it gets to a certain point it overflows. Well, that's what's happening in this area between repeated rainfalls and high groundwater. It's low and there's no place for the water to go. So we, over time, I imagine based on some complaints, this culvert was put in to try to get water out to 158, which is fundamentally very sound. The only problem with that is that this is draining into a culvert that goes under 158, and unfortunately the bottom of that culvert is this much higher than this area. So in order for the water to get to that point and flow out, you've got to fill up this much back in Nags Head Acres plus. You got to have water higher in order for it to get out at that point. So that's been the restriction or the constriction for facilitating drainage out of that area. Bissell's looked at a number of and I may be getting too much into Nags Head Acres, but Bissell looked at a number of options here. One of them involved a pump station. Sink a pump station in the ground somewhere in here and with a force main, mechanically push that water to the east side of 158 and get into the drainage system and eventually into the ocean outfalls. And their report had pros and cons associated with that, mainly the cost. And as I like to say, pumps fail. I mean, mechanical things fail. So I always tend to, and their report also said this, that anytime you can have a gravity flow drainage system, it's a lot more reliable. So that's the direction that we're going in. And they have, as recent as last week, provided a plan that picks up drainage at this point here, which is a tough spot. Drainage from Nags Head Acres, which is currently going that way. And ultimately the plan is to take it from here along the east side of South Meekins, along this side of the road with a pipe, drainage culvert, and ultimately out to Blue Jay, which is on the north side of the YMCA entrance. So that piping would go all along South Meekins, roughly 1,000 feet, and then discharge into the DOT's drainage system at that point. That has a cost associated with it. So we've got the piece for the multi-use path, which has X number of dollars. We have the Vista Colony project, which has X number of dollars, and the pot that's left. We're trying to best manage that to get the biggest bang for our buck and try to pick up what we can of this Nags Head Acres enhancement. And that's where the twist is coming with this Vista Colony. We've asked Barnhill. Currently, the plans for Vista that was bid and their prices right now, their base bid reflects. The only improvements that plan called for along the east side of Meekins Drive here was very similar to what's happening over here, which is basically they're going to come in and saw cut 10 or 20 feet out of each of these driveways and then re-pour those driveways to create a swale and then grade a swale on that side of the road. That's what's included in the bid. And what Ralph and Dave and I were thinking about, and with Bissell's drainage plan from Nags Head Acres showing a pipe through here, we're thinking that it's best, rather than do that work now, rip out those driveways, reform the driveway aprons for a swale and grade it, and then come back possibly next year and do that again to put the pipe in. Let's try to do that now if we have that capability financially. So we asked Barnhill to give us a change order, even though they don't have a job yet officially, but to give us a price on top of their base bid of installing a portion of the overall drainage pipe from Nags Head Acres to Blue Jay. Basically installing this run from this point to Barn Street and stopping. And that's the twist I was going to add to the project. Those numbers have been provided by Barnhill, and if it's available, staff recommends that.
Question?
I would support that wholeheartedly. These projects have been on our plate for years, and anything we can do to go ahead and fix the problem instead of piecemealing it. I like the fact that you're trying to do them, and Ralph and I have talked about this, trying to do them jointly and go ahead and get it done, even if it means, in my mind, borrowing money and paying it back from the stormwater drainage fund as it becomes available. But getting the projects done, and let's be done with it. Let's finally put some of these drainage issues on the west side to bed. We really need, we've been spending money in areas that affect few people. These are two of our biggest neighborhoods that need a problem that's there to be corrected.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, the only heartburn I have with it is I gotta get Ralph or Eddie V to, this is a project that was bid, okay? Both bids are present on the, we've now gone back to the contractor that was low bid and negotiating another portion to it. without giving the other contractor the ability to bid, which he might come in lower. Is that feasible? I mean, that's there's no issue with that?
I don't see an issue with that. In my mind, Commissioner Romali, the project was bid and apples to apples, and we've got an apparent low bidder, and now we're negotiating with that low bidder. It's a common practice.
Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, he is low bidder, but that didn't mean we were going to accept low bid.
That's correct. That's entirely up to you this evening.
I'm just using that as an example.
Yes, sir.
I don't want it to come back and have the contractor come back and again, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but there's a difference. That's the reason why I asked if both of them recap the bid. I mean, there's a difference in bids of $240. And then be negotiating with the low bidder to do additional work. Totally agree with it, Eddie. I mean, it needs to be done. I'm going to support it. I just don't want the other contractor coming back and saying, hey, look, you know, you're...
That's
May I ask a quick question,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Lighty?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Low bid. We don't really have a choice on not accepting the low bid, do we?
Well, this is an informal bid process,
Right.
so you're not required to follow the bidding requirements for a $500,000 or more project. So, your practice would be to accept the lowest responsive bid.
Which I think we would have a hard time arguing that either of these bids were not
That's
responsible.
correct.
Or
It really, this comes down to lowest.
Commissioner Sadler, sorry.
But I do have the same heartburn at the same time that Doug did. I think we're changing the specs here. We gave them specifications, and they bid, and we have two very close bidders, and normally we would take the lowest, but now we want the lowest to incorporate another whole segment of work or another whole addition of work. So looks like to me we would just rebid it with the new part of the work we want to do and send it out and let them both bid on it again, or 3 people or 4, whoever. I mean, I have a problem.
If that's the direction that the board wants to go, we can do that. I would recommend against that. Perhaps we look at it this way. We did bid apples to apples. We've got a low bidder. We verified their bid. They're a very good outfit to do the work. We award them the contract. And now that we know with Nags Head Acres, procedurally, we award the contract, and then we come in with this Nags Head Acres option and ask them to submit the change order for that work. It's done. It's fairly common for that routine. I'd caution against stepping back and rebidding. The numbers are out, and then we're going to get into a lot more questions. And I understand what you're saying, but the fact is that they did bid the project apples to apples. It's extremely close.
As long as the attorney can defend it, I don't care.
The thing is, okay, let's just say that the board doesn't have the money and we decide, you know, while it's not feasible now to do the additional
Yes, ma'am.
work, then next year, of course, we have to undo a lot of the work we're doing. Next year, we would bid this portion of the work out to anyone that wants to bid it.
That's correct.
So we're being frugal here. We're correcting 2 situations with 1 job. And it seems to me that we probably should have thought forward and put this job in with that job. But we didn't. And I know the bids are there. They're out. It's not like one is 300,000, the other one's 150. It's just that I personally am not comfortable with this, the way it's presented. I really, to me, it's too large a change order. I mean, it's another whole job. 1,000 feet, did you say?
No, ma'am. That's the total project. That's the total run from here all the way down to Blue Jay, which we're not doing. We're just doing a portion of that, which is from here to Barn Street. We're doing roughly, was it 600 feet? No, 400 feet? It's about 400 feet out of the 1,000.
3 blocks.
So it's half the project. Well,
Commissioner Walter?
so
In looking at this, it appears that we are not asking for that change order at this point. Correct? You're notifying, but we are asking for a response to this bid. And once this bid is approved, then there will be some negotiation or talks regarding the cost for a change order to perhaps combine the project, which would be a savings. While you're doing one, doing the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, my understanding of what we're asking for tonight is for the board to be aware that the base bid is here, and we're recommending award of to the lowest bidder, and that we have this other work that could be done. We have the numbers for that already, and can that be budgeted for that so that we're...
And you're saying that it makes sense that it's efficient to do it that way?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, you're pulling all that driveway back up.
Yeah. Which doesn't make any sense.
and I don't disagree with that at all.
I
This
understand.
is the job that it needs to be done this way. But these are both two fine contractors. The town's worked with both of them for many years. My problem is that it's almost half the project. You said 400 and some feet. My problem, Eddie, is getting the best cost for the additional work when you've already contracted with one person.
Part of the, and he gave his backup on, and I'm not defending Barnhill, I'm just telling you what they provided in giving us this quote for doing this additional work. He uses, the original bid for Vista Colony was a unit price bid, so he had prices for his pipes, prices for his catch basins, prices for pulling up driveways and replacing them. And when he submitted his price for doing this leg of the pipe, 400 feet or so, he used the same unit prices. And he called that out. He said, he even submitted his original bid, said I'm using the same prices in my price change. So I don't know if they're only a couple $100 apart, it's a very tight bid between the two companies. So to me, there's no, he didn't come up with a new price and didn't reference unit prices or what he submitted before he used them. So.
For the sake of argument, as long,
Yes, ma'am, I am.
no, for the sake of argument, as long as the attorney says that this procedure is within the guidelines of the law, then I don't agree with it, but I certainly go with it.
It's a blind bid.
Yeah.
I mean, neither one knew what the other one was going to bid, obviously.
Yeah, and just to clarify one other thing, what this does is, all you're obligating, if you accept either one of these bids, all the board is obligating the town to is this bid for this part of the project, and the option is there to negotiate for a change order to extend it. If you get sticker shock from it, you don't have to do it. So that's all that's being obligated here is just this particular part of the project.
And the only thing I'm going to say back to your remark, John, is that I don't know whether I'll be sticker shocked or not, since I won't have anything to compare it
That's
with.
right.
But I'm assuming that town staff would.
I have the number, if you'd like to know. If you want to be shocked or not.
You and Ralph need to get together and make sure it is, it is a reasonable price.
Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion that we award the bid for the Vista Colony West Drainage System Improvement Project to Barnhill Contracting in the amount of $210,300, and also to authorize a total budget amount not to exceed $231,330.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
May I add a little bit to that? Please, let's make very good communications with the folks around there. Whenever we go in and do swales where they're not swales, it tends to get a reaction from the public.
It's a swale problem.
I believe they're sending letters out to all the property owners, and they're going to have requesting a meeting.
Good.
We're going to do both, send the letter, send them door to hand deliver them so that if we send if the resident is not the owner, we'll make sure they get the letter, and we try to have a meeting and make sure everybody knows clearly what we're doing.
Thank you. We're skipping cards. Okay, good.
Skipping carts meaning what?
We're going to talk about trash cans at the retreat. Items referred to and presented from the town attorney, Mr. Lott.
Briefly, I would like to just give you all an update. We, on a week before last, Ben Gallup argued the Cherry Inc. case in the Court of Appeals. I told you at the first meeting of the month that was coming up. That was done. We have no idea when to expect a decision in that case. The rule of thumb is sometimes it's within about 90 days of the oral argument, but no telling. But I wanted at least to alert you to that. Also, the day before that, I filed the brief for the town in the Fisher versus Town of Nags Head appeal. That case, as you know, is the one where they've appealed from Judge Cole's dismissal of that action, where they challenged the town's authority to condemn the easements for the beach nourishment project. We have not yet gotten any indication from the Court of Appeals as to whether that case will be heard with oral arguments or decided on the briefs, but that's the next thing that we're waiting for at this point. So that's the status on those two particular cases. I also would like to, since we're going into closed session anyway, I would like to discuss the San Soto litigation with the board at that time.
Thank you, sir.
Briefly.
Mr. Manager?
I have two things. First, the time to talk about fireworks. The Tourist Bureau again has set aside $25,000 for available grant funds in their short-term restricted funds. Last year, you'll remember that the town of Manio, as well as our town, received funding for our fireworks show. That grant deadline is February the 15th. So I'm looking for some direction as to whether or not we would like to apply again this year. Last year, the total cost to us was just over $10,000, including staff time, overtime, all expenses. And then, of course, there was the grant match of $10,000 from the Visitors Bureau. And if the board is inclined for us to apply again, I think we'd be in that same budget range. Provided, of course, that only Manio and Nags Head apply again and are awarded.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to see us submit a grant. Be one of them.
Yes, ma'am. King?
I love fireworks.
Well, it is a lot more palatable having it cost $10,000 as opposed to $10,000.
Yes.
And I still wish we had partners that would like to do a joint venture out in the Sound. That way we
I
could
did
do one
mention that.
spectacular show.
I did mention that to Mayor of Manio. We haven't quite gotten there yet.
I understand.
Entertain a motion?
So move.
Second.
Further discussion? This is a motion in favor of fireworks, I'm assuming.
Motion to apply for the
Apply for the grant. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
One other is the discussion of the Ocean Outfall project. Work is continuing. We have been submitted with the change order request that there's two parts of this. One being for an extension of time on the contract, which we are recommending because of the delay in getting the project started as a result of Hurricane Irene that set the project back, this beach nourishment project back. We're recommending an extension of time. The other part of that change order was for some additional demolition work that needs to be done. It was for demo work of piles that DOT was not aware that were in place at the Curlew Street access. That we're not prepared yet to recommend that part of the change order because staff's going over justifying. be back at the next Wednesday with the recommendation there. But we are asking to be able to amend the contract completion date till March 8th. That'll give us time, I think, with dealing with the contract with Coastal Marine Structures. They can continue to do work until next meeting when we can make a recommendation on the cost of the increased demolition.
Need an action from us?
I need a motion to amend the contract
To extend the
completion.
contract
Completion date to March 8th,
to
Right.
March 8th.
2012.
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
That's all I have.
I think my request for update has been answered pretty thoroughly, I think. And the only other thing I would like to do is piggyback onto a closed session to discuss property acquisition, specifically the Fin and Feather property located in the 7700 block of Virginia Dare Trail.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Stepp?
Mayor, I would like to do 2 committee updates real quick.
Please.
We met today, Jeanette Spear did, and there's an exciting, well, the most exciting news that I can tell you about Jeanette Spear is they actually have the tanks, they've stopped leaking, they're repaired, and the fish are in there in all the tanks except for one that they're still hoping to have within 3 or 4 weeks. But the fish are beautiful. And they say that they can tell that there's some of the same fish because they're running the light along and they're acting the same way. So I guess they've returned the same fish. Anyway, it's beautiful in there. If you haven't been inside, go, because it's just worth going inside and watching them. They're beautiful. The pier also had an exciting event to happen. They put the wave energy device out on the pier, and this was, I think, back in December. They wanted it to stay for a month, but due to weather conditions and the not having the clarity of the water that they needed, they removed it after about 10 days. But they're going to have a new display in the aquarium part of it, where you'll be able to see the apparatus that they use to measure the wave energy and tell you about how many kilowatts that a wave gives you. I'm not in there. You're going to have to go and see it. But that's really going to be a great addition. The other thing that they're doing, they're having so many new programs, summer camps for the kids, and he went over those today. And they've expanded on their educational programs. They have really gone out of the way this summer. It's going to be some good programs, and all you got to do is go in on the website and you can see each one of them detailing what they do. There are activities for the young as well as 8 to 13 and 13 on up to 18. Small fry fishing camp, Waterman's Ocean Adventure Camp, Ocean Explorers. I mean, it's something Dare County has not seen before. The other thing I wanted to say is they did give us a total, Cliff, now correct me if I'm wrong, they gave us a total of the
Visitation?
visitation, which was, is it 200 and, let me see,
277,000.
277, that up to today, or
Correct.
pretty much, okay. The, of the money that was taken in, they had 243,000 from walk-in traffic. That's the donation. The daily fishing passes actually totaled 299,000. Education, the education classes that they held was 23,000. And the facilities rental was 81,000. They have just gone up on the use of the facility. which I believe now is from 34 to 3,800 for the event place upstairs. So the total income was $646,000. And while they were a bit short of their goal, I think they're very enthused about what's going to be going on this summer to hope to get it where it needs to be. What else, Cliff, did I forget?
The only other thing I think is important is the committee, the advisory committee has been pressing very hard, Secretary Freeman, to try and get the admission fee, not a donation, but a required fee to enter onto the pier, and the Secretary has pretty much firmly said that's not going to happen. However, the sentiment of the advisory committee was that, I guess no doesn't mean no, we're going to keep pressing and try and get that fee instituted.
Well, I think one of the members today, Damon Tatum, that most of us know, pointed out something, and it's really, it's dollars that makes the world go round. And if we had had a $2 admission fee mandatory to go on the pier, $2, yes, the income would have increased by $140,000.
It would have been over 500 grand. Yeah.
Yes. And the other item that we made sure went in the minutes today was that every pier on the Outer Banks charges a walk-on fee, except for Jeanette's Pier. And it's just not the right way to do business.
I believe you also included that every pier expected and was presented with the notion that the aquarium would have a walk-on fee.
We did also put that in minutes. Will that get us traffic with, I really truly believe our chairman, Bob Mueller, is pressing for a face-to-face meeting with Secretary Freeman. So we'll report back as we hear. The other meeting that I went to was and Ralph's already gone, was the tourism board when we approved Ralph as the new chair. The wonderful thing is that $5,000 was approved for the Kelly's Parade for the bands and all the expense that goes with that. They also did we had requested them to support our applying for the two grants that we're doing. One was for the Partif grant that we're doing, and so the tourism board sent a letter in support of our grant, and the other one was funds for the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund to install amenities at the Wellborn site. Let's see.
The Partif grant is for the Wellborn site as well, is that correct?
Okay, I've got wrong copies here. Let me see.
This one. Was it for the Trails grant, the Safe Route to Schools?
I think one might have been the Trails grant and one might have been the part of.
Right.
You're right. This is the Trails grant, yes, and then the Partif grant. So they did sign both of those and send those on in support. We also have their support in the conference that the North Carolina Beach Inlet and Waterways will have their conference here March 28,
26, 27?
26, 27, that's right. The tourism board will give the town $1,000 for
Sponsorship.
that as well. And let me see.
You mean give the beach and inlet waterways?
No, well, what they wanted to do is to go in and, you know, there are things that you support, whether it's a luncheon you buy or whatever. They wanted to partner with the town up to a cost to them of $1,000. So it's really whatever one of those sponsorships that we want to take, and I think that's on your agenda.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
They are most happy to donate $1,000 towards that. So they also did one more thing, and that's probably on your agenda as well. The revitalization of the game fish bill, opposition to that, they did send a resolution again opposing that. Okay.
And that's something that we have already done in the past, and did we do it again last?
We did it in April or May of last year, and I think that you did another one, or you're doing, yes, Carolyn's saying you did it, you're doing another one, you did another one, but you are reaffirming your opposition to their making trout, puppy drum, and whatever the
Striper.
other one. What?
Rockfish.
Rockfish, game fish, where you'll never get another fried trout in a restaurant.
Have rockfish tonight.
Yeah. The, there was one more thing, but, okay. The Seafood Festival, Susie, you gonna tell about that? I mean, are you?
I can give you a brief update.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Commissioner?
One more item. As you know, for the past 2 years with the budget cuts in the state, the Coastal Resources Commission has no longer visited areas and held its meetings throughout the state. They've been at Pivers Island and Beaufort. However, in February 8th and 9th, they will be meeting at Jeanette's Pier to have a meeting up in the northeastern part of the state. So
That's wonderful.
it is open to the public. And the agenda should be on their website very soon, which is North Carolina Division of Coastal Management. But it'd be nice to have the commission back up in this area of the state for a change.
That is
It's
nice.
nice for them to see the issues that we face up here. Commissioner Walter?
Well, Seafood Festival. The group is plugging along with that. The paperwork is almost ready to be submitted for the 501c3 organization, which is Outer Banks Seafood Festival, Inc., which will allow us the opportunity to apply for grants and hopefully continue to build on this in the years to come. It will be October 20th at Windmill Point. October 19th, we will have a kickoff event at Jeanette's Pier. The really great thing is that our meetings are attracting more and more people, which is wonderful. So we're getting more and more input and more interest, and I think it's going to be a really wonderful opportunity for our community and something that that the whole Outer Banks can expand upon in the coming years.
Great.
And then also, I would like, may I ask a question at this time? I would like to ask if we can have an agenda item, or perhaps at our retreat, have some discussion about how we, and forgive me, I'm new, but how we appoint boards and committees in light of this evening. Are there criteria that we use to appoint boards and committees? Because, we had Ms. Garnott, who has been the alternate on the planning board, Mr. Haddon, who has served one term, both requested in writing to be appointed to the planning board. Ms. Parker sent an email asking that she be removed from consideration in favor of Ms. Garnott, and Mr. Murphy was the last person to submit an application, and that was this month. Everyone is qualified. We have wonderful applicants, but my concern is the message that we send to our citizens with our process. And so I'd like to ask that we have some discussion about the process for appointment. What is the criteria?
And I think we've got the ideal opportunity for that coming up in the next 2 days with our board retreat. We will certainly add that to the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Not a thing, Mayor.
My items, I would like to request sponsorship of the North Carolina Beach and Inlet Waterways Association Conference in March, partnering with the Outer Banks Tourism Bureau.
I'm sorry.
Please,
excuse me.
jump in.
The Dare County Manager Bobby Outen is on that board of the North Carolina Byways. So is Greg Loy, the Kildover Hills planner, and they've been trying It takes about $25,000 to put this event on, and as Commissioner Cahoon said, it's nice to get people from the coast up to our section. It doesn't happen very often, so they're working mighty hard to try and get some of those sponsorships. So an idea that's being tossed around is Dare County, its municipalities, along with the Tourist Bureau, maybe we could collectively strive to be the main sponsor of this event. It makes sense that we would be the one that would, come up with the $5,000. So whatever we contribute may stand alone or partner with others, hopefully to achieve that $5,000 goal.
And I agree, Cliff. If I could just take a second, Mayor. I mentioned to Bob Mueller that this date had been set. And the reason I mentioned it to Bob was because Bob first introduced me to the North Carolina Beach Inlet and Waterways Commission 10 years ago. And that's when I first met Mr. Harry Simmons. But being the host town, so to speak, I do believe we're going to have to do more than a box lunch. I also said to Bob, it's such a feather in our hat because they were such a help to us in many different ways over the years, but particularly with the Beach Nourishment Project. Because most of those towns do their own beach nourishment, year after year with the federal dollar, but then of course they got in before we ever thought about doing a beach. No fault of Doug O'Malley's. So I just feel that we really need to do more than perhaps another town might do. And in talking to Bob, I said, I believe this is the first time that group's ever been here, and he corrected me that long time ago it was known as the Coastal Coalition. And it actually came here many years ago when it was very small, but not since it has its name that it has now, and of course the members that it has. So I am so glad that they're coming up our way.
I have a question. It doesn't really say. $5,000, what are we talking about? $5,000 says Monday night reception. I mean, if total sponsorship's got to be more than that. So in other words, we don't know.
No, all told, it takes about $25,000 in sponsorship. And then there's those different levels, depending on what you give, that you get recognized as being the title sponsor.
So the question is, what level do we want to give at?
And you said that Bobby said that they're going to match what they're doing, or is everybody throwing in $1,000?
Well, I think collectively we're trying to get to that 5,000.
Well,
my recommendation would be that the town give 1,000 in hopes of coming towards that $5,000.
Make a motion, we give them $1,000 out of contingency. Or do you want more?
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would urge us all as well, while we're on this item though, to make sure Out of Bounds Association, Realtors, Restaurant Association, all those organizations are going to be benefiting from having all these people up here as well.
And we've contacted Great Lakes, CSI, and CZR to contribute as well.
And they typically do
They
a lot
do.
of times, so make sure, but
But there's others that may be
There's
interested.
others, there's the banks and different things that.
Local engineer firms.
Exactly.
So forth.
And you can see that Moffitt and Nickel, they sponsor every time. They do some work in this area, but they are consistently in the sponsorships. So.
My hope is that with the Tourism Board's 1,000, that the town would make sure that the $5,000 sponsorship, that the town would cover whatever is short of whomever we can get to join in with us for that Monday evening event. That's what I'm looking for. So the worst scenario.
We got Cliff out here raising money for this thing. Is that what we're doing?
We do what?
Got Cliff out here raising money for this thing?
Well, I know I'm going to hit OBAR for a, I think each one of us needs to hit the community that we're involved in to see if they want to do a sponsorship. But I'm just saying that since we are the host town, and we have benefited so much from these towns over the years. What's the name of that? Frank Rush. Good Lord, how many times have you been on the phone with him, Cliff? That we need to make sure that that money cost is covered.
I don't disagree. Just come up, well, I think we should come up with a price.
Well, my price is, I'm saying, not to exceed $4,000. That's my suggestion.
Can we just agree to put in 1,000 at this point, matched by the Visitors Bureau, another 1,000, which leaves 3,000, and then everybody work toward that end? Do we have to go up to 4,000 tonight?
I'd like to propose we look at 2,000 for now and see what if any shortfall there is. Yeah. And we can put that out there that this is what we're willing to put in and ask the other municipalities and the county to participate.
Make a motion, we take $2,000 out of contingency.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign.
May I
Motion-
make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
The only reason they're coming here is because Jeanette's Pier has a facility, because the only other place is one other place in the county, and that municipality will not join the organization. So they will not go anywhere that the membership.
The membership has to support the
Right,
league.
exactly.
It's
Exactly, so.
it's a basic.
If this were an organization that we had not received so much from, I would not be as, I would be more frugal with the contingency,
And I
Mayor.
will disclose that I am on the board.
Anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Full disclosure, I serve on the board as well, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that, so that there's no hidden agendas.
Thank you, ma'am. We did have a need to go into closed session to discuss and consider real property acquisition, Fin and Feather Motel located at 7740 South Virginia Dare Trail, and to receive an update from our attorney regarding the Sansota litigation. And I'll make that motion that we go into closed session to consider those items. We have a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. We're going to recess to a closed session. We're going to come back into open session and ask our attorney, Mr. Leidy, to report out from our closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The board did discuss the pending litigation in the Sansota case and also discuss the potential acquisition of the Fin and Feather Motel located at 7740 South Virginia Dare Trail, but no action was taken on any matter.
Thank you, sir. Anything else to come before us this evening?
Just a reminder of the retreat.
Yes, sir. We do have a board retreat on Thursday and Friday that we will be recessing to, and that starts at 9. Good. Motion to adjourn? Motion.
Actually, you are adjourning this meeting, aren't you, and just having a whole separate meeting for the retreat?
That's correct.
Is that what we're doing?
I think
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're done.